Thank you, Angela. Our final presenters are with Zysclovich Architects. Their firm is based in Miami, Florida, and they designed the Pine Jog Elementary School in West Palm Beach, Florida. The citation they're receiving is for integrated design process, and our presenters are Thorne Grafton and Mike McGuinn. Mike McGuinn.
Good afternoon. Like many of the presenters before us, go ahead. Oh, there you go. Excellent. Thank you. Forward arrow. Yep. We're very thankful for the Sustainable Building Industry Council for awarding us the citation, but it doesn't sort of start there. It really starts with, as you've probably heard through all the presentations, with fantastic owners. We had the pleasure of working with two such owners, the School District of Palm Beach County, as well as Florida Atlantic University. Sure, if you can hear me. Two entities that were committed to sustainable environmental education, as well as committed to sustainable and high-performance buildings. And they evidenced that, and they put their money where their mouth is, while other public agencies in the state were not so committed. And so to follow along that path, they committed portions of each of this project site. The overall site is 150 acres. It's nestled within suburbia in West Palm Beach. But the 150-acre site was owned by Florida Atlantic University. It was currently being used as an environmental center, as well as had a series of cottages and out parcels to allow for graduate students to live on the site, observe habitat, and develop an environmental curriculum. Their site was in disrepair, was suffering, and so they knew they needed an environmental center to be rebuilt, and the school district needed land, but they had money to build their school and their environmental center, so they partnered together, and they found ways to work together throughout the process, again, all around the idea of creating environmental stewardship and environmental curriculum that would cross all the disciplines. The overall 150 acres, as you can see here, pretty square box. The project basically came down to 15 acres that were allowed to be developed. That 15-acre parcel was on the previous location of the environmental center and had some nice opportunities because of circulation and access and so forth that made it easy to develop. The inspiration for the project and for the curriculum is the site. It's a pristine pineland, untouched for most of it, and those areas that were touched previously, we found ways to restore through this project. As you can see, students are here engaged in nature. They were doing that before, and now they were visiting on different class trips and so forth. Now they're doing it every day. Students are out in the preserve doing activities, and a lot of them related to restoring or saving the habitat. As we said, the overall project is a series of synergies of spaces and collaboration between the two entities. As you can see here, basically this is the environmental center, about 15,000 square foot LEED Gold facility. This is the school, about 140,000 square foot LEED Gold facility, and houses right around 970 students, elementary K through 5. Pre-K through 5. Early on, both of the entities realized that budget is going to be a concern and a constraint, and so what they did was they partnered in the programming phase and found opportunities where facilities did not have to be duplicated. And so we found areas such as multi-purpose rooms, media center, dining area, and so forth, where those spaces and large facilities could be shared and grouped. And so what we did here was we created the ability for these areas to connect. There's security and control issues with schools, and so we needed to create somewhat a boundary, but also provide areas between the schools and the environmental center for project areas. One of the amazing things about this school is the engagement that students, faculty, and visitors have taken on projects, and you'll see some of those a little later on. But everything has a focus to the exterior. That's key in the project, and what you'll see here is that basically the environmental center becomes the trailhead. When visitors come to the site, they'll park within the parking areas, walk through. They're sort of given the tour guides, the different information so that they could learn more about the site. And then it will often also collect in a central area that we created, an exterior amphitheater space, that then they are oriented to the site, given loose instructions and said, go play and invent and explore nature. And so that becomes the connection of the trails, and the trails lead throughout the 150 acres. The connection of the area spaces here also allow for project areas. We created bands, and you'll see this a little later, of spaces that tie the two buildings together, but also create project hydroponic gardens, spaces where the mini trail for small students and so forth. That was very important to the way the school had to function. With having pre-K through 5th grade students in here, you have a large diversity of age groups. It doesn't sound like it, but when you have the little ones, you need to make sure that they're in areas that they can engage nature in the same fashion that the older students can, who have more independence. And so what we did was we created a small area in between, wrapped the building around with the classroom pods to the north and the south, again creating an east-west orientation to maximize solar performance as well as natural daylighting. Always trying to maintain and capture views. The randomness of the geometry is random, but it is purposed, and you'll see that in a little bit. We tried to also look at other ways to collaborate, centralize systems and utilities. We have a centralized mechanical plant that feeds both of the facilities, again keeping that away from the habitat areas, and centralizing parking lot uses. Parking lots for environmental centers are most heavily on the weekends. Parking lots for schools are most heavy during the week. And so we found ways to, again, shrink the footprints and find collaborative use. Here you can see the large one is the ground floor plan. Again, you can see the large multi-purpose spaces, still allowing for control, but also creating view corridors. At all locations, do you have ways to sort of slip past and beyond in the circulation areas to the outside. The central spine is what we call the eco porch. It's a large canopy area. Typically in South Florida, people are avoiding the rain, avoiding the sun, and avoiding the heat and humidity. But what we're able to do here was create a large shaded area between buildings, open up the areas between the buildings to allow to capture the prevailing breezes. So we were shaded, we were breezy, and no one has any problem sitting out in those areas as well as circulating through it at any point in time. We also get rain that kind of runs horizontal when the wind blows, and so we had to create these areas that are large expanses, and you'll see that in just a moment. Classroom pods separated by grade levels. We call them learning habitats. We splayed the corridors to, again, encourage views to the outside. We created central areas in the corridor to, again, create project-based learning spaces where nature could be engaged, as well as various areas for students to teach themselves. I'll let